Okay, time for our first review. I am so excited about this one. Robbie, what is it?
Yes, let's talk about Bad Sisters, which is a new 10-part series on Apple TV+, which is written by and co-starring Sharon Horgan of Pooling and Catastrophe and Divorce fame. It's been adapted from a Flemish TV series called Clan, which was actually broadcast on Channel 4 back in 2016 under the title The Outlaws. Out-laws.
Rather than the in-laws,
Yes, exactly. And it's this kind of wildly entertaining comedy thriller whodunit hybrid. And at the very heart of the story is this very unhealthy and unhappy marriage. The husband in this marriage is played by Claes Bang. He's called John Paul. And the wife, played by Anne-Marie Duff, is called Grace. And it's clear this relationship is built on extensive manipulation and gaslighting and isolation and very insidious sort of low-level constant abuse.
Yes.
The reason for this is that Grace was previously very close to her four sisters, who are played by Sharon Horgan, Eva Berthistle, Sarah Green and Eve Hewson. And John Paul is trying to drive a wedge between Grace and her siblings. And the last straw in this ongoing low-level war of attrition is one Christmas Day, where this long-standing tradition of a family swim at the sea, John Paul manages to trick Grace into not being able to go by giving her champagne in the bedroom, and then she obviously can't drive because she would potentially be breathalyzed. And here we have a clip of him putting this nefarious plan into action.
Take the bird out at 1:15. It'll need to sit for an hour anyway. Be perfect by the time we get home. Come on, Blonde.
What are you doing?
We're going to the 40-foot. We'll be back as quick as we can.
You had a glass of champagne. You can't drive.
I'm grand, really.
No, you can't drive. You had a large... Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not.
There'll be cars on
perfectly...
every corner. Come on now, think.
Well, maybe you can drive us
Of course I can. I had a glass myself.
I've not missed a swim since I was little. I'll be perfectly fine. Oh.
Now, why would you go and make a scene on Christmas Day? I'm not having Bronwyn in a rough sea with her mother drunk. Absolutely not.
Oh, it just sends chills up your spine.
Yes, he's such a great villain in this because he's not, he's horrible, but he's horribly plausible. And the writing is so good around this kind of constant manipulation that he's got going on. It's very, very realistic. And then they just give it that little push into proper kind of genre thriller territory. Anyway, Grace missing the swim is the last straw for her four sisters. And they kind of jokingly talk about, wouldn't it be great if we managed to kill this guy and then she'd finally be free. And then they not so jokingly begin to discuss the possibility of doing that. And then they start to kind of to work out the logistics of how this end might be achieved. Now, at the very, very start of the show, so this is not a spoiler, John Paul is dead. We see him in a coffin.
With an erection.
Yes, with an erection. And Anne-Marie Duff is kind of tearfully preparing sandwiches for the funeral. So we know at the start of the show that he is dead. We do not know why he is dead. We do not know who is responsible for his death.
But we know that not many people are mourning his death, right?
Yes, no, that's right. The funeral seems to be quite like there's a great scene at the wake where someone says to Sharon Horgan's Eva, it's very sorry for your loss. And she says, yes, I'm just glad the suffering is over. And someone says, I didn't realize he had a kind of a deteriorating illness. Oh, no, he didn't.
Yes.
But yes, so first of all, you have this kind of very intriguing setup, but then it's the way in which it's structured is it plays out as two parallel whodunits. So every episode we wind back in time once or twice for these substantial flashbacks where we see the sisters talking about and eventually beginning to execute these plans for how they're going to get rid of John Paul. And in the present, so after John Paul's funeral, we have two insurance people played by Brian Gleeson and Daryl McCormack. Daryl McCormack, who was in Good Luck to You, Leo Grand, and has that incredibly soothing voice.
Oh my goodness, an incredibly soothing face.
Yes, very soothing voice, very soothing face, very soothing jumpers as well. The knitwear in this is fantastic.
Guy Lodge would be very proud.
Exactly. But the two of them are trying, almost in this an Inspector Calls way, trying to fathom out what went on. So you have these two parallel whodunits running. what happened and will whoever did it get away with it? And because of the really elegant structuring, both of these mysteries are ticking along in parallel. It's, as I mentioned, an Inspector Calls, so it's very much like, and also Knives Out. It's doing the whodunit thing, but also in a way that involves a lot of contemporary social critique. You know, this is very set in a middle-class Dublin milieu, and it's talking about, you know, the kind of the lives these people lead, and it's getting kind of right down into the you know, the compromises and the trade-offs and the agonies that they've had to kind of go through in their own personal lives. It's not just kind of frivolous whodunit stuff. To me, it also had a real feel of Martin McDonagh as well, and not just because of the Irish setting, but because of the jet black comedy involved.
So dark. The humour is so dark and so witty.
The really richly developed characters. I mean, I can kind of quote lines that you hear, and they don't work because it's not the characters saying those lines. Like, there's such a great moment where Sharon Horgan's character Eva discussing the demise of John Paul, and she says, "Oh, you know, he's Satan's problem now." And, you know, for me to say that in the studio, it's kind of, okay, so you can kind of see it's a funny line, but the way that she kind of delivers that is like, it's so good. It's very, very character-driven comedy, very dark, and it's using that comedy to kind of puncture holes in the toughness of the subject matter, and to allow you to kind of get in there and really kind of savor the toughness of it and the darkness of it, but to kind of arm you for it, if that makes sense. You know, to kind of, you can get in there and you can kind of enjoy it. I thought this was really terrific. And as I said before, the performances are fantastic. Clive Bang's villain in this, I mean, he's so kind of loathsome in this way that he is. Everything that he does is very, very plausible, but again, it's just that kind of that way of writing a thriller when you ground it in reality and then just give it that extra shove and just to kind of heighten it just that little bit to kind of make it extra addictive and just goose it with this kind of electrical current.
It's called Bad Sisters, so so much of it is set around these female characters. Do you think that we see enough of them to really get to grips with all of them? There are so many different personalities, so many fantastic actors. I mean, Sarah Greene is up there as one of my favourites. If she's in something, I'm going to watch it. Tell us, did they manage to get the balance right between all of them? Yes,
I think so. Because they have 10 episodes to play with, they're able to kind of introduce the sisters. I mean, we get to know them all straight away, but then episode by episode, we get more on each one's life and backstory. And there's, I think it's the third episode with Eva Berthissel's character,
who also is such a revelation.
Yeah, no, she's
always been brilliant, but in this, it really feels like she shines.
She's great, and there's so much kind of like because she's a full-time nurse and also a full-time mother, and she has this incredibly hectic life. Sharon Horgan's character, by contrast, is childless, and then that again, you know, there's depth there that is kind of dug into over the course of the episodes. I mean, maybe for me as a film critic, you know, having 10 whole episodes, hour-long episodes to play with means that there is, you know, there's an element of character development that doesn't necessarily need to be there. So that, for example, the fact that the two insurance guys, they have their motive is that if they have to pay out on John Paul's life insurance, which is this kind of elaborately expensive claim, which is what arouses their suspicions in the first place, that will send their firm under. And I don't necessarily think you need that. You could just have an insurance guy or two insurance guys who were incredibly diligent at their jobs, and, you know, that was enough. Like the Daniel Craig and Knives Out thing, we don't need to know why this guy is so kind of determined to solve the mystery.
It's weird, isn't it, because it's Brian Gleeson's character, right? Is that his name?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's Brian Gleeson's character who you should be sort of more sympathetic towards him, because I do think he does have a substantial claim. He is right. He knows what he's doing. However, he is the second to John Paul. He's the character that you least enjoy spending time with, or least, like, he's not very likable, despite the fact that he has a pregnant wife. He's an expectant father. You should feel quite sorry for him being in this situation where he possibly is about to go bankrupt and lose his job at the very worst time. And yet somehow he's still completely kept at arm's length from us, because all of our sympathies lie with these women.
Yeah, and then this is one of the things that really smacks of McDonagh for me, is that you have a whodunit in which the heroes are the suspects, right? Yeah. I mean, that's kind of turning the form on its head. And I mean, look, it reminds you of McDonagh. It's not exactly like a Martin McDonagh film or play, but it certainly hits those kind of notes. I find this, I mean, it's just so satisfying to watch, like, because it's such juicy performances. It's so funny, and it's actually kind of grappling with stuff. You know, when sometimes we were talking earlier about, when you sit down on the sofa at the end of the day, what do you want to watch? Do you want to watch something that's got substance and richness and is going to challenge you and make you think? Or do you want to watch the escapist, frothy stuff? And this kind of hits
Treads
both
the middle.
notes
Yes,
beautifully.
it does. It's riveting. And for me, it really reminded me of Graham Norton's Holding, which came out on, I think, ITV quite recently, within the last year. And it has very, very similar notes. It's got that same idea with a group of sisters. There's the whole idea of some being childless, some having a huge family, and they are all suspects as well. So you will definitely see parallels with that. Bad Sisters is a big thumbs up from both of us.
Oh, wow, you've made it to the end.
Congratulations.
Now you're here, you may want to hear about some of our other offerings.
Other offerings?
Yeah,
I know what.
The other offerings, the exclusive interviews we do on our hit subscription podcast, Kermode and Mayo's Extra Takes.
Oh, yeah, that.
Yeah, that.
The one where we speak to the likes of Tom Hanks and Daisy Edgar Jones, and the extra subscription content where Rowan Atkinson told us all about that famous rapping scene in Love Actually.
Yes, that's the one.
Amazing. And where would our lovely YouTube subscribers find this mystical creation?
Well, I'm glad you asked. They just need to go to kermodeandmayo.com or tap the link in the description.
That easy, eh?
That easy.
Incredible.